Another day, and here I am driving on my daily commute to work. So let's get into some traffic talk. What's up to all my freelancers and creatives? This is Nathan. Welcome to another episode of Traffic Talk. Traffic Talk is where you ask questions, I give you answers, all while driving on my daily commute in Houston, Texas. Again, welcome to the show. And for those who are not aware, Houston has a lot of traffic. I mean, Houston being the fourth largest city in the U.S. In Texas, things are spread out, and you have to have a car to get there if you want to get anywhere on time. Not only that, but there's a lot of people on the road. A lot of people own cars, so there is a lot of traffic. I always say that however long you have to go, so if you have to go 20 miles, that's how long it'll take. But if there's traffic, multiply that by 2. But if there's an accident, multiply that by 3. So there you go. So there's a lot of traffic, but it created the opportunity for me to create this show and for the ability to answer questions, and remain productive. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for watching the show and checking it out. So as you saw from the episode title, this episode is going to be about web hosting. So where do you go to host a website? But more specifically, what is going to happen when a client is asking more detailed questions about web hosting? So let's dive into the question. And the question is from Reddit user KevinKev_, and they say the following: website hosting, how to respond to clients. For some context, 2 scenarios. How should I respond when offering myself as a hosting solution whilst developing a website for a client? They ask me who I'm hosting through, because technically, if I answer, they can just host it themselves for cheaper, right? But if I don't answer, would that imply I'm forcing them to pay me for hosting the website? I could offer similar services, probably as a reseller, but at the same time, I don't want to dodge the question entirely. If a client decides to choose a different hosting provider while I'm developing the website, how should I react? Should I ask them why they are changing? Have you all experienced anything similar and somehow managed to turn the situation around? This one particular was upsetting because I already provided a discounted rate on development. Apologies if this is the wrong place to post this question, but I'm freelancing starting out and I couldn't think of a better place to start. So that's just some context on the question, and really just to provide and qualify what I'm about to say. I actually used to work at a hosting company. I worked at a web hosting company. That was one of my, major jobs coming out of undergrad, college. So that was one of the first places I worked. And web hosting is, in other words, you have a website, and your website files have to live somewhere on the internet. And web hosting is what allows people to type in your domain name. So you type in nathanallotey.com, and then it shows you the web files that are hosted on a server somewhere, and it delivers those files up. So what Kevin Kev is asking here is, they have a client and they're building the website in a hosting environment. So while they're developing and building the website, they have hosting, and they had planned to offer hosting services whenever the site is done and just switch them over and have the client pay them to host it. But they're curious about what the client is saying, because the client is asking, hey, where are you hosting the website? So the client could probably go get a hosting account for $5 a month, $9 a month. And the person who asked the question, they probably were going to charge more and just get recurring fees that way. So that's the context of the question and what's going on. So really, like I mentioned, I used to work at a hosting company, and I can definitely say this. All of the hosting companies that exist, for the most part, are reselling hosting services. So there are a lot of hosting services that are using and reselling Amazon services. There are a lot of hosting companies that are reselling SoftLayer, which is a major data server warehouse. There's a lot of web hosting companies that are reselling DigitalOcean. That's another one. DigitalOcean, or some companies do build their own server data warehouse and then they sell those services, but it's very rare. A lot of people are just simply reselling other services. So every hosting company that exists, well, I'll say 80% of them that exist, they're just reselling another person's service. For those who are watching on video right now, just ignore the fact that I look like a masked superhero. The top part of my face is covered by a shadow and the bottom part is illuminated, so I look like a superhero. So just ignore that and listen to what I'm about to say. But as I mentioned, every company is pretty much reselling services. So that is a common practice. I can also say that don't get caught up in whether or not the person can get cheaper hosting, because regardless of every company out there, the main difference between every one is not the servers, is not how fast they are, is not, what can they do in their development environment. The main difference is customer service. That is the thing that separates every single hosting company that exists. Customer service. Of course, they can pay for cheaper hosting, but then in terms of service, they're in the same group as the rest of the hundreds of thousands of other clients that company has to answer. I can definitely say, when I used to work at a hosting company, I did everything for the company. So I worked in different areas for the company. So I did almost everything. And I can definitely say many people are multitasking when they're even giving service. So they're trying to answer a ticket, they're trying to talk on the phone, and they're trying to talk on live chat. Of course, you have some people who specialize. They only do email tickets. They only do phone. They only do live chat. So that's not everyone. But they have to answer questions really fast and move on to the next thing. I took a different stance when I worked for a hosting company. I was like, you know what? I'm dedicated to answering the customer's question completely. I'm not going to give them some fluff answer. I'm going to dive into any question that they have and also answer things they didn't even ask me, just so that they don't need to wait on hold or call back again. So the main thing that's going to differentiate your hosting service from all the other ones that are cheaper is the level of service you can provide. You built the site, so you're familiar with it. You know what the site specifically needs. There's a reason why you chose the host you chose in the first place, and maybe it does have something to do with their server environment. I can definitely say there are some web hosts who don't keep PHP, another coding language, they don't keep it up to date, right? So somebody may host a website with them and certain things don't work because they didn't update their framework or their code base or their server to handle the code base. So those are all things that you can communicate to someone. But directly answering your question, I can definitely say it doesn't matter if you tell them where you're hosted at. It's more important for you to tell them why you chose the particular host you did and how you feel as a professional that they should host with you so that they can get that priority support and so that they can get the explanation. When the client has a question, you want to be able to say yes to their question. And by you offering web hosting services and by them hosting through you, it enables you to say yes to any questions that they have. If they go through an independent host, you don't know what answer they're going to get. And you have to communicate that, because that's the difference between somebody hosting with you and somebody hosting with another service. Taking a step back from focusing just on hosting in general, another thing to really communicate is, I'm curious that the client is even asking. But what I mean by that is, I hope from the beginning you were proactive in communicating that you are taking care of the web hosting, and that was somewhere mentioned in your contract. When I work with a lot of clients, in my contract, I state I do not offer hosting services. I communicate to them and I say, I am not offering hosting. For development purposes, I will develop your site on my own hosting, but I'm not offering it. I will come back with a list of recommended hosts I believe you should move forward with, because I just don't want to get into hosting. That is something that I may need to consider. I may need to consider offering hosting services, because whenever there's a problem with the website, the client calls me first anyway. They email me anyway, and then I say, oh, that's on the web host, and they still are at a loss of what to do. So there is an opportunity for me to get extra income because I can offer those hosting services because the client already trusts me. But again, that's something I'd have to update my contract. And when I talk to the client initially and I pitch my services, that should be included. So if I was going to add that in my business, I would say, yes, I'll develop the website for you. This is the cost. Going forward, there's a recurring fee of $75 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month, $500 a month, whatever it's going to be. And that is support with hosting included, right? So if I were to add it to my business, that is what I would say, that you need to pay a monthly fee for the maintenance of the website as well as the hosting environment to keep it active. Because like I said, clients come to me anyway asking questions, I might as well take advantage of it. But I bring that up because based on your question, I'm not sure if you cover that in the contract and it's understood. So just dive a little deeper. No need to be intimidated by the client or worried. Maybe they're asking because they're looking to save money. And regardless of what service you offer, they want to save money. So maybe they do want to find one of those cheaper hosts. But I can definitely say they will quickly discover why a cheap host is not the best. So maybe they do, let's just play that out, right? Maybe they find out you're hosting with somebody, they get the services cheaper, and then they come asking you questions. You say, oh, that's the host provider. Here's their contact information. You're going to have to ask them. And after a certain amount of those, they're going to say, you know what? I don't care. I don't care how much it costs. For my business to be successful, I want you to be a part of the process. So that's one thing I've learned in working with clients. Let them figure out certain things. You can make recommendations as a professional, but sometimes they need to see why you're making recommendations on their own. I'm not saying I'm hoping for any client to fail, but discovery is important. When you recommend something and someone goes a cheaper route, they'll finally see you were genuinely trying to help them. You weren't trying to get more money out of them, and that's just a decision that they're going to have to make and live with. A quick example, there was a time where I offered services to a client to back up their site. And for whatever reason, they didn't want to pay me for a backup, right? And they made a mistake of deleting everything on their website because they were switching web hosts. They were going from one web host to another, and they purchased the things with the new web host, but they forgot to transfer the files. So they canceled their old account and they deleted everything. So then they came to me saying, please, can you restore the site? And I was like, you know what? I don't have a backup. Well, I didn't say that. Let me correct myself. I said, remember when I asked you if you wanted to get backups? You said no. And it was at that point, the client realized, wow, I finally understand why Nathan emphasized backups for situations like this. Now, in that client's case, I told them, I have files and things backed up, but it wasn't the most recent version because you didn't pay for things going forward. I did back it up, so I have certain things that were on your site, but a lot of things that they added on their own, I didn't have. And then they were okay with that because that was better than zero. And so they paid me for that, and I was able to restore their site. But that's an example. Let clients make decisions. It's about, now you as a professional, you make the decisions that will make the client the most successful. However, if they're trying to save money or pull things back, or they don't want to buy certain things from you because they're trying to save money, that's on them. but they fully have to understand the risk involved. And that's where you come in as a professional. You tell them the risk, you tell them what's going on. If they still choose to do it, it's on them. And you just have to be a mature professional and allow them to discover that on their own, because experience is the best teacher. Thank you for taking the time to check out this episode. I greatly appreciate it. I am still en route on my commute, so I'm not at my destination yet, but I feel like I've definitely answered that question specifically, and I can go into more detail with that. But just to sum everything up again, it's okay to tell them where you hosted it at, because you need to position yourself on the client services you're offering, not the price. So don't get caught up in comparing your pricing to another web host pricing, because you're not offering hosting services, because everyone can do that. You're offering customer service, and your service is more independent, more detailed, more custom, more specific to your client's needs than any general host out there who exists. And remember, add that type of language to your contract and talk about that up front if that is something you want to offer clients going forward. And as I mentioned as well, 80% of all web hosts are reselling anyway. So it's not a secret. Even where I host my sites, I know who they're really hosting with, but the reason I'm using them is their customer service, because I ask them a question and they immediately answer. That's why I'm hosting with them. It has nothing to do with the environment. I can buy a server and host all my websites on there, but now I have to upkeep the server environment, right? So I'm hosting for customer service, and I believe the play you should do with your client and the play you should communicate is service, not hosting prices. If you have a question similar to what was asked today or anything different, feel free to reach out to me. You can go to nathanallotey.com, click on podcast. You'll see Traffic Talk, select Traffic Talk, and ask me that way. Another way is you can simply ask a question on social media. Hit me up on Twitter, @NathanAllotey. However you want to get me the question. I don't care if it's Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube comments. Give me the question, and I'll work it into the show and make sure to provide an answer. Well, thank you for checking us out, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.